So as you heard, one of my favorite words is the word no. I think it's the most productive word that you have in your vocabulary. Today, we're going to talk about a client of mine named Sarah, and how at multiple times I made it harder to interact with me for specific reasons, and that made her choose me as her developer. Then we'll talk about Sarah at 3 stages. We're going to talk about three main groupings of no. Now, I'm going to talk about some other resources here, and you can see on my slides, there's a link there. There's a PDF, and I'll refer to that a few times, with a whole bunch of stuff like my initial client email is provided in there. The format I use for proposals is right in there with a long description of each chunk, and we'll talk about those later. So, in addition to being a developer, I sell some of my own WooCommerce stuff, and I run stores and do lots of different things. My actual formal training is as a counselor. I spent 10 years building websites in the middle of that. So one of the other things that I do as I've built a better business is to help people like yourselves run their business well and be doing more coaching. One of the biggest problems that I see agencies, developers, anyone do is that they do way too much selling. They're like an actor trying to get their first part. They go out and they try all the time to do any audition. It doesn't matter what it is. And this just isn't when you're starting. This is probably more often when you're starting, but this is with agencies that I know that are well established with names that most people know. And they do too much selling. And your prospect knows that right from the beginning. And you probably even start with the language. And when we try to be very specific and call someone prospect until they've paid you, and then they are your client. Because until they are your client and paid you, you have no obligation to work with them. And it's important to remember that fact. So there's 3 main things, 3 main groups of no's that you go for. And they're going to do a few things for you. The first thing they're going to do is help you protect your time. We're going to talk about what a maker and a manager is. Most of us need to spend time being both a maker and a manager. Secondly, they're going to help you dive into your projects really well. Dive in with your client, and you're going to go to try and get them to say no. And third, you're going to not be Indiana Jones. You're going to be Gandalf, because that's what you are. So, the first 2 no's. We have 2 no's up front. In 2009, Paul Graham wrote a great essay called The Makers and Managers Schedule, and you'll find a link to that in the PDF that you can download. And in that essay, he talks about makers. Most of us in this room need to spend time as makers, and a lot of time. A maker is a designer, a developer, a writer, and what they need to do is have lots of time to focus on one specific topic without interruptions. There's a great comic also linked in the PDF. You'll see, and it says, why you never interrupt a developer. And the developer has 1 line of code in his head and a bigger chunk in her head and a bigger, and then someone says, hey, let's go for coffee, and it's taken 45 minutes to that point, and it's gone. Right? Now, you need those large swaths of time. A manager has a discrete hour. In that hour, they can have a meeting, they can do email, they can do whatever in that hour, and it doesn't impact them as much to switch between their big thinking task and that hour. The problem with a lot of business owners is that they run their business first as a manager and secondarily as a maker. They don't protect their time, and that's a problem. And this is where your first 2 no's come in. The first 2 no's that I always use is, no, we don't meet until you've answered my intake questions. And number 2 is I protect my time, so here's my schedule. I'm going to talk about Sarah. Again, you can find an interview with her where she talks about some of the no's. And Sarah emailed me, we'll say on a Monday, I don't remember the day, but she emailed me and said, hey Curtis, I have a project, here's some details, let's get on the phone. And I replied to her with my standard first email. It has 9 main questions in it, sometimes they vary a bit, but 9 main questions. And I said, your project sounds interesting, I need to see if it's better for me or for someone else. And if you look at the email, this is almost exactly what it says. Here's 9 questions, please answer these first. And she wrote back very quickly, because it was in my afternoon block where I generally work as a manager. And she said to me, these are great questions, let's get on the phone. And I said, no, you need to answer the questions. There's no way to move forward in the project without you answering these questions. And so she answered them. I saw them the next day. At that point, Tuesdays I did calls. That's the only time you could take a call with me. Now it's Tuesday afternoons and Fridays only. That's the only time you can take a call with me. It's the only time I book coffee with friends in town even, or 6 a.m. on Saturdays. because I need those large swaths of time, either for my kids in some respects on Saturdays or for my work. So she said on the next day, let's talk today. And I said, no, here's my schedule. And I sent her a Calendly link or Acuity, whatever you choose to use. And she looked at that and said, I can't talk to you for 2 weeks. Let's talk today. And I said, no. And I gave her a very short version of the Maker and Manager. I need large swaths of time to do good work for you, for my other clients. When I'm working for you, you get the same no's, like everyone else gets the no's that you're getting right now. She said, okay, I should have jumped on that sooner because it's 3 weeks now. I said, yeah. She's like, will you let me know if it changes? Sure. I always say yes. I never actually do. If someone doesn't book a call, I just work instead or hang out with my kids. I say, yeah, of course I will. No. Which takes me to the next bit. So we've gone through the first bit, right? This is part of a good client vetting process. You all should have a defined process. You're going to hear a lot of mine as we go through this. That gets us to our next things. When I get on the phone, I convince them not to do the work. This is crucial for you to convince them not to do the work. Sometimes it will turn out you don't do the work. One time I talked to a furniture store about the first one, which you'll see in a second. I'll show you. There must be something more valuable to do. And they said, you're right, there is. We need a new warehouse. And I said, great, you should go do the new warehouse then first. That's a better thing for you to do because it's not valuable enough. It is, if the project is not valuable enough to them initially, you're not going to get their full attention to it. Well, there's 3 things I say generally in my first call, amongst lots of other technical questions. And it's, there must be something more valuable to do. You should probably hire someone internally to do this because it's going to be cheaper than using me. And third, you can probably find someone cheaper than me. And also often, you can find someone faster than me too that will get to your work sooner. So with Sarah, when I said there must be something more valuable to do, she had, I don't remember the membership platform now, but she had another membership platform on WordPress, and honestly just broke all the time on her. Not only that, but when support touched it, they broke it and said, we don't know what went wrong, sorry. So she was out of luck. Her site was broken. She had no capability to fix it. And as we dug through every other feature she wanted, she needed a new membership platform. And so getting her to WooCommerce and memberships was what we needed to do, amongst a whole bunch of other things that she was double entering things all over the place and using a page builder, and none of her site looked good. None of her site looked uniform. So that's a lot of the other things we did. But it all required us to port her to a new membership platform first and come up with a pathway for her existing users to get into the new payment system and into the new higher pricing system as well. The second one, with Sarah, this was an easy question. She was not technical. You should probably hire someone else to do this, internally. She's not technical, so it was a very easy question with her. Another client you'll see on my site is RapidMiner. They had an internal development team that built their core software. It's a data mining software, like take all the medical records in the US and sort stuff out of it. They had a part-time WordPress developer who's good. I have worked with him a number of times now, very good. But he was only part-time, and he was newer at the time. And third, they had the theme developer. So those 3 groups, their core developers built the original website, but they did not have time to build the current website. Number 2, their part-time WordPress developer was junior, we'll say, good, but didn't have a good development process to put them into. And their theme person just broke everything all the time. So their site was down most of the time. They needed me to come in and set them up with a good development flow. They needed me to come in and help them scale so we could add 4,000 users a day for weeks on end because part of their software was free. Every person that registered with the new system got a license to the free software, which involved the product purchase. And we needed to deal with scaling issues around that because that was just a lot of stuff and specifically clumped in time zones. So we had a lot of that would be 50% in like 3 hours as it launched in one new time zone, right? And then, as I said, the other developer just broke stuff, so we didn't need to do any of that. And third, I'm sure you can find someone cheaper. So when I talked to Sarah, she'd been looking for 3 months already. When I said, you can probably find someone cheaper, we had talked about $20,000 or $30,000 to do the project. She said, absolutely, I can. I found someone who'd do it for $5,000. I said, great, you should use them. That's probably a better option for you if you think that is. And she's like, no. Because they, and she didn't use these words, but they acted like that initial actor. I'll do whatever you want. Of course I can do that, and I can do it tomorrow. Can I start? And I was the only one, in her words, that acted like a professional right from the beginning. I was the one who said, no, we can't do this. When she asked me some question about a feature, I said, well, I think we can do that. We need to do these 3 things and investigate it further in this way, right? So yes, she could find someone cheaper, but I was the only one who was going to act like a professional. Which gets us to our third grouping of no's. We had 5 so far. No, you must answer my intake questions. The second one was, I protect my time, so here's my schedule. There's 3 right here. There must be something more valuable to do. You should probably hire someone internally to do this, and I'm sure you can find someone cheaper than me. throughout those questions, they've also told you why you're more valuable all the time, right? They've told you, yeah, I can find someone cheaper, but your higher rates are more valuable because. This is all things that you need to dive into with your prospects before you sign them, because they're writing your proposal for you right now. In a second, you're going to see they're going to write the proposal with you. So you're not Indiana Jones, finally. When you get to the proposal, Indiana Jones does what? He works at a school, and he goes on an adventure with 1 or 2 compatriots. It's amazing. And he comes back to the school with something cool, right? Back to his professorship, and he's got this new story to tell. Now, developers tend to do that anyways, right? You go off and you act like a mole for 4 weeks, and your client's like, what happened? You're like, I've been working, but you never told them. But we even do this in the proposal process. So you're not Indiana Jones, but you're Gandalf. You fight Balrogs of the internet. You say, you shall not pass, bugs. We're not going to do this. But what did Gandalf always do? He worked for the team. He worked in collaboration with them, and he helped them do the best jobs possible. That's why you should always be working on your proposals in collaboration with your prospects. So when a client on a Tuesday says, hey, will you give me a proposal by Friday? No, I won't. What I will give you is a draft of the proposal. So like I said, I have formal training as a counselor. And we always heard that there are 3 things said. Even today, I'm saying 3 things for every word that comes out of my mouth. What I thought I said, what I actually said, and what you heard. All of that is informed by my body language, by your experience, by my experience, and it's only worse via text, because you don't get any nuance there. So I start up Google Doc, and we work in collaboration together on a proposal, so that we both know that we understand each other. This is also really good to vet your prospect. Are they good to work with? They still haven't given you money. They are still a prospect. There have been times when I've got to the end of this and said, I'm sorry, I declined to work on the project. But here's the entire proposal to go look with someone else to work with you, because I've decided that they are not a good prospect. There were times I've done that when it was tight financially, when we had to figure out how to get my daughter's figure skates or something. But almost every time so far, I'm still running my own business for 10 years, right? So every time we come back and there's another project that comes along. That was better. That was a better fit for me, right? And there are 6 sections to a good proposal. You do not work on all of them with your prospect, but none of it is a surprise. A proposal is only a summary of everything you have already agreed on with your prospects. That's it. There's one minor exception to that when you get to the options. But that's it. They should never see anything in there that is like, where did this come from? I didn't know it was going to be this much. If they do, and I did this 2 years ago on what I thought was a very good referral from someone who had a good budget, and we worked on the proposal together, and then I told them the price, and they said, oh, the site only makes $8,000 a year, like we can't do $15,000 for this. Well, of course they can't, but that was my fault, because we had not talked about pricing before. Right? I assumed they had a good budget because of the referral I got. So the 6 sections of a good proposal, explained in the PDF, is 1, the current problem. This is actually even how I started. This is all good communication. I started this talk like that. I talked about your current problems. You're selling all the time. You're feeling like you're being put like an actor on the spot, right? This is the current problem. So for Sarah, we talked about your site breaks all the time. You don't have functionality you need. It doesn't look consistent. We can fix all of that stuff. Section 2 is where we fix it. We talk about the brighter future. We do this together. She has seen this. Your clients see this, your prospects see this. I need to correct myself still sometimes after working on this for a year still. Your prospects see that, and they get to work on their brighter future together. This is not a surprise. 3rd section is where we gauge success, where we put real numbers on that. So we're gonna do 10% better sales. What does that mean? Is it $10,000 a month, $120,000 for a year? So that would be, say, $30,000, $40,000 for the project, which we can make them 3 times at the bare minimum. If you can't do a profitable project and give the client a 3-time multiple, then it's probably not a profitable project for them. You should discover that in your initial talks and tell them they shouldn't do the project. There are many times that I have done that with a client or prospect. As I said, I need to correct myself. And they said, but everyone else just gave me a quote. You didn't give me a quote. Thank you. And a year later, I worked with them. They didn't even talk to anyone else because I was the only one who said, this is not a profitable project for you. The next section, right, we did the problem, what is your better future, gauging success. Next 2 sections you do not work on. Options. 3 options. There's a lot of science around why. I'm just going to tell you 3, not 4, not 21, 3. Easiest way to say it is if there are 2 other firms competing against you, and they give 1 option each, which is standard from what I see, and you give them 3, now you are 3 of 5 choices. And the client gets to choose a level of engagement they want to work with you at. Option A is always the basics. I've seen proposals from people, and option A, when they ask for an e-commerce site, is I'll give you a theme. I actually did that. That's why I remind myself of this in a talk. I said, here's a theme, and I looked at it, I was like, this is a great proposal, and I won the work, and I looked, option A didn't even count, because it didn't fulfill the client needs. Right? Option B was really what they needed. Option B would be generally what they need plus some of the dreams. Option C might be where you deviate from the things they love, the things that you've already talked about. Worked with one client and they sold a membership for every taxonomy term they had. There's toys. So they did toys and they already had a whole bunch of issues around manually having to link all these toys together because there were different toy lines and each toy had a different version. They had to link it all together in HTML in their pages. We were going to fix that, and as we dug and dug and dug, automation was really the problem. So I told them as option 3, option C, I can automate the membership creation for you too. You're just going to check a box and it'll create that new membership for the new taxonomy term, and then you don't need to do anything. And he said, did we even talk about this when he got the proposal? I said, no, this was your problem though. So this is something else we can do to solve more of your problem. Absolutely, $4,000 over his budget, 60 minutes worth of work. There are times you do deviate, but it still solved his core problem of lack of automation in his site. Then we get to timelines. They go with your options, right? Option A will take 4 to 6 weeks, option B will take 6 to 8 weeks, and option C will take 8 to 12 weeks. None of these things are surprises though. We come to our final, where we talk about accountabilities. This is not your contract, but this is some basics of the ideas of engagement. You're going to pay me on time. We're going to have a call every week. When we have a disagreement on how something should work, we're going to go to the user data. We're going to look at research, and we're going to make an informed decision. We're not just going to go based on what we think is necessarily best. We're going to have something to back it up. And that's it. Those are the proposal. That's what you need to do. That's 6 no's that are going to help you get better work. If you can do those things, they're going to save your time so you can spend more time as a maker. They're going to help you dive into the project better. And you're going to get to test your clients even more upfront, and they're going to help you use the language that they understand in their proposal so that when they get it, they've worked on the whole thing, they know, and you've talked about prices, and you're much more likely to win the work. Thanks.